having boundaries is not selfish, it's taking care of yourself, which is your responsibility. And you cannot take care of others if you don't take care of yourself, because you cannot give from an empty bag, right? A lot of women do this, just suppress the anger. So when you are in a situation when you need that energy, when you need that to advocate, to run away, to go, do something, you don't have it. So you are powerless. When you just stand there and take it and you are in that freeze. When you are angry, you have access to this energy to do all these things, to fight or to run away or whatever. But when you are suppressing your anger, you don't have this energy available and accessible that you need in order to do those things. So you just become kind of like a doormat. Hello and welcome back to my podcast, Self-Discovery Simplified, where we break out habits and dive into those limiting programs that we need to let go of in order to create that positive change in our lives and take our power back. And if you are following this podcast, we are diving into this big topic of boundaries and how to set a healthy boundary that I think a lot of people can relate to. And if you haven't listened to the 2 previous episodes, please check them out, because they are kind of built on top of each other, where I explain why do we need boundaries, healthy boundaries, to be contained and to feel safe, and also what are the 3 steps to set a healthy boundary. That sounds so simple, but in fact it's very challenging for most people, especially for women. And today we're going to talk about why those 3 steps can be so challenging and what are the most common challenges that prevent people from saying no and from advocating for themselves. Okay, so just to recap, the 3 steps of setting a boundary is to clarify where the boundary should be, communicate the boundary, right? To set the boundary, to tell the person this is a boundary and this is what's going to happen if you cross that, and then to enforce the boundary, which is do what you said you're going to do and, enforce that when the transgression happens again, which most likely will. All right. So today I want to talk to you about the most common challenges. Why is this so difficult? That it seems so simple, as like, yeah, any stupid people can do that, but in fact it's not so easy. And why is it not so easy? And as I said, one of the big reasons is that we have limiting programs, unconscious core beliefs that we received from our environment at early ages, at childhood, probably in the first 7 years, that are going against setting a boundary. So for example, I was told that you have to treat your parents with love and respect and address them with love and respect, and you can never obviously yell at them or shout at them or speak with words of disrespect or anything like that. And this was a very big rule, and not obeying this rule had led to punishment. So, and then a lot of people can relate to things like that, right? So when my father yells at me like a crazy person and says all kinds of horrible, hurtful things, yeah, I'm thinking that I just need to take that and listen to that because he's my father, right? And so he can do whatever he wants, but I have to obey, and I cannot do certain things because those are the rules, those are the programs, right, that were installed, when I was a child. So what happened was that even though later when I was an adult, the same situation occurred again. Like when I was a child, he would just, yell and shout at me and insult me and all kinds of things when I was like 30 something years old. And I remember, I think I was 33 or something, and we had this huge kind of scenario when he unleashed, all his opinions on me in a very disrespectful way. And, I just listened. I was frozen. And once that was over, that was the first time that it dawned on me that I don't have to stay here. I don't have to listen to this. I can leave, that I'm not a child anymore. I'm not 6 years old anymore who has to stay there and listen and take it. But actually, I'm an adult and I can leave. I have options here, and that was, the beginning of setting a boundary with him in my personal case. So I'm sure that a lot of you can relate that we are raised in a certain way, especially how to behave towards parents, towards your husband or whatever, and we require a certain standard of behavior from us. So, for example, I was told never to yell or insult somebody, but we don't think that the same rule applies to the other person. So until I was an adult, I never thought about this, that, oh, so I cannot shout and insult and do all that things, but my father can, that it's okay for him to do it, but not okay for me to do it. So, you don't think about these things when you are a child. You just learn that these things you can do and other things you cannot do. And I think one of the biggest obstacle is setting a boundary is these limiting programs. And often these programs are unconscious, that you are not even aware that you have these programs, but you just simply cannot say no. You feel it, you want it, you everything, and you just can't do it because something inside of you goes against you. So these are one of the most common obstacles, and that's why you need professional help and container, and you need committed work of healing and self-discovery to figure this out and to remove those programs, so you can take your power back and you can advocate for yourself in any situation. You can stand up for yourself and protect yourself and say no when you mean no. And this sounds so simple, but it's so difficult, in so many scenarios. Okay. So another reason of why people can't put a boundary is suppress anger. Okay. So we're gonna talk about a lot about emotions in this podcast, and what emotions are good for and what is their purpose and how to express them and all that. But for now, I just want to say that anger is for protection. Okay. You get angry when somebody is crossing a boundary. You feel that something is happening that is not okay, that is violating your integrity in some shape or form. And you get angry in order to access extra energy and power inside of you in order to fight or flight, which is either to fight back and advocate for yourself and protect yourself for real, or to leave, to run away, to leave the situation. Or there is a third option, which is freeze, which is a lot of people who are traumatized are here. Is just like, just stand there and take it because you are frozen. All right. So when you are angry, you have access to this energy to do all these things, to fight or to run away or whatever. But when you are suppressing your anger, you don't have this energy available and accessible that you need in order to do those things. So you just become kind of like a doormat, and this is very tricky for women, especially because the conditioning, gender related conditioning, like women in the West are taught not to be angry. Okay, just be a nice girl, smile, be kind, but angry you cannot be, right? Boys cannot cry. Yeah, don't be a pussy, don't be weak, don't cry, whatever. Women can cry, girls can cry, that's no problem, but girls can be angry, and men can be angry, that's okay. Man is angry, that's fine, So, but if a woman is angry, that's hysteria, and we have to lock her up, whatever. So a lot of women, a lot of people, but especially for women, this is a basic conditioning and a basic program not to be angry. Don't be angry, don't feel your anger, or if you feel the anger, suppress it, bottle it up, swallow it down, put a smile on your face, and that's how you do it. And this is very important, because this relates to boundaries, because if you suppress that anger, you suppress your natural protection mechanism. You suppress that extra power that is coming to your aid in order to do something about what is happening. Okay. And there is this aid coming to you, like this little team, and you are like, no, thank you, go away. I just like to suffer, So that's another thing that you need to work through, like healing, self-discovery, professional container of not to do this, to change this, because we automatically do it. A lot of women do this, just suppress the anger. So when you are in a situation when you need that energy, when you need that to advocate, to run away, to go, do something, you don't have it. So you are powerless. And you just stand there and take it, and you are in that freeze. So suppressed anger is also a big factor into not having proper boundaries and leading to not having proper boundaries. Another factor, obviously, is fear of punishment, fear of conflict. So a lot of people think, okay, I don't like conflict. I want to avoid conflict. And if I set a boundary, there will be a conflict through conflict. And that's true. A lot of times setting a boundary is through conflict. We're going to talk about that why, but I don't want conflict, so I rather stay in this situation because I just don't. I want to keep the peace. These are the peacekeepers. Lots of peacekeepers have no boundaries because I just want to keep the peace, so I rather stay quiet. Or fear of punishment. So for example, if you yell back to your father when you are a child, definitely something's going to happen to you. Right? Well, maybe not to you, but something happened to me. So anyways, there was a consequence, there was a punishment, right? So if you try to set boundary, or if you tried in the past and you were punished, that also can become an internal obstacle to try it again. Why would I try? It would just got everything worse. It made everything worse that I tried it. So that's another reason. Okay. Another reason for having difficulty setting those boundaries is fear of rejection and abandonment. So oftentimes, people can be very codependent and they are in a toxic relationship, but their fear of being alone is greater than the suffering in the toxic relationship. And there is nothing that you can do about it until it reaches that point when, the suffering, the fear is less and the suffering is more, and then you are able to act on it. But yeah, unfortunately, oftentimes that's what happens, that people somehow feel that this is still better than to be alone. So, let's not talk about boundaries, right? Another common thing that I observe working with people for over 20 years is people feel selfish to put a boundary. So that's another limiting program and limiting belief, that it's selfish to put a boundary. Then you are selfish if you put yourself first and say, I need this, that is selfish. And that is just simply not true. That's self-sacrifice not to have boundaries. That's what is dysfunctional. Having boundaries is not selfish, it's taking care of yourself, which is your responsibility. And you cannot take care of others if you don't take care of yourself, because you cannot give from an empty bag, right? So again, these are those limiting beliefs that you need to clear and let go before you can act upon your best interest, so to say. Okay, a lot of people feel guilty if they think about setting a boundary, because they think, oh, I'm gonna hurt the other person. Oh, the poor person is gonna be hurt, they're not gonna like it, and I shouldn't do it, and that makes me feel bad because I'm hurting them. So I always ask these people, what about this person hurting you? Oh, that doesn't matter that you are hurting. You just care about the person is hurting, right? So that's another form of self-sacrifice. So self-sacrifice is very strong factor, as you can see in, lack of boundaries when somebody is in this scenario. Yeah. And then, as I said, it can be trauma, lack of self-worth, like people who are traumatized, who were severely abused, any kind of physical, sexual, mental, emotional, even spiritual abuse, have very great difficulty to set a boundary. And I want you to understand this, because I think people think, oh, it's just so easy, you can just say no. It's not so easy to say no, especially not if you have some, specific trauma that is related to this. And, I think that in some country they changed that consent means saying yes and not saying no, that you have to consent, that you say, do you want to do this? Yes, I want to do it. You don't want to do this? No, because a lot of people have difficulty saying no, right? Who are traumatized. And I want to share an example with you that happened to me a good while ago. And I had, an acupuncture session, an acupuncture therapy, right? Putting the needles. And this person, while he did the treatment and then he did meridian massage after the acupuncture, which was always the case, like at every treatment. And this particular time, this person, started touching me in an inappropriate way, like in intimate places that was nothing to do with the treatment. And I have to tell you, like, my experience, and this is after, working through my trauma, taking my power back, learning all this, becoming a therapist, helping other people with this issue a lot. This happened after that, okay? So I already did a ton of work and healing around abuse and all that when this happened. And when this started happening, I remember that I was laying on the table, and first of all, I was in a state of freeze. That was my automatic go-to. Even though I worked on it so much, it was still, and my body was just numb. And in my head, there is this like riot, saying, oh my God, what is happening? What's going on? This is not okay. You should do something. You should say something. But I'm just laying there and kind of feeling super uncomfortable. Also, there's a part of my mind who is trying to justify what is happening, who is trying to find a logical explanation of why this would occur, trying to, maybe this is part of the treatment, maybe this is some like new move that is very important, whatever, like, right, all this is going on simultaneously. And it took me maybe several minutes, I can't remember, but it was several minutes, less than 5 minutes, but several minutes, in order to come out of that freeze and remember that I have power and I can do whatever feels good to me, and I don't have to lay here and just take it, and I was able to say to him that I don't feel comfortable with this and I would like you to stop. And he did, and we'd finished the treatment, and then I did tell him that in verbally that it was not okay and this is not an okay thing to do, and as also as a therapist, to another therapist. And he was trying to explain that there are some meridian points there that he wanted to press, which might be true. I didn't Google the meridian points in the perineum, but maybe there are. But even if it's that true, you should get consent before, and you should explain what is about to happen and get the people verbally consent to it, okay? But why I'm telling you this and why I wanted to share this is that is so hard. You cannot imagine is how hard this simple thing is to say no, to say stop for somebody who went through abuse, who went through trauma, okay? And how much work you need to put into it in order to take that power back and to be able to say that two-letter word, okay? So just very important. And if you've been through this type of trauma or abuse, then you absolutely need therapy. You need healing. You need, guidance and support to go through it and to change this, because this is something that is not so easy to do. Okay, so these are the most common challenges for many people when they come to this predicament, how to set a boundary. And even though it is just 3 simple steps, clarify where the boundary should be, communicate with the person, tell them what's going to happen if they cross it, and then enforce it, you can see how complex it can be to actually do this very simple thing. And next episode, we're going to still continue with boundaries, like my favorite topic, one of my favorite topic. And we're going to talk about why boundaries are set through conflict. Okay, so stay tuned and share with us if you recognize yourself in this situation, and if you want to share with what is the most challenging for you right now in terms of setting a boundary, or what do you think is the hidden reason that is not allowing you to actually do that, and what kind of support or guidance do you need right now if you are in a situation when you need external guidance and support. So share with us so we can help you and empower you through this podcast, and stay tuned for the next episode. Have a beautiful, magical day. Bye.